Welcome to Twisted Reflection. I am Shay, your author. Before we begin, I want to dedicate this book to the souls who inspired the characters living within these pages. It's funny what you can do in a room full of people that you can't seem to do in front of one person. Nina, Love Jones.
The fireworks started at dusk. I had known they would. Just like I had known Amir would leave me alone to handle it. Just like I had known Ashley would text, "You good?" without really wanting an answer. That kind of question is a performance. It implies a door, but the knob is missing. I curled tighter under the bed, copper headphones pressing into my skull like a vice. The noise outside cracked and roared. I could feel it in my teeth. The floor vibrated every time the sky burst open. He always celebrated holidays with his family. It didn't matter. Even if I had screamed, no one was coming. The towel wrapped around the headphones used to smell like him. A mix of clothes, sweat, and that shock tart cologne he wore when he thought he had something to prove. I missed that smell. I hated that I missed it. Boom. Like a gunshot. Crack. Like his paddle. It's strange how sound tricks memory, makes you live inside it, makes the old bruises twitch under the skin like they're trying to resurface. Ashley found me hours later. She had Amir's key. I heard her steps in the hallway, the way she hesitated before turning the knob. I didn't say anything. Just laid there under the bed, like something forgotten, headphones still buzzing static. I didn't cry. I had done that already. Into the floorboards. She crouched, her face half in shadow. Her expression was tight, irritated, like she had been forced. But her hands were gentle. She pried the headphones off of my head, fingers lingering on my temples like she was trying to feel the shape of what had broken. I didn't look at her. "You came," I whispered, my voice raw. "Of course I did. I'll always be there when you need me." The gentle smile she gave didn't reach her eyes. I didn't call her on it. That night, I slept without sound. No music, no white noise. Just a faint ringing of leftover panic in my ears. The next morning, I melted the copper from the headphones, held the flame until it curled, let it go in my crucible, bright and wild like the fire and the flares behind my eyes. I added 2 rough chips of smoky quartz, the kind that looked like ash caught in stone. I made earrings, small jagged things. The weight felt right. They pulled at my earlobes. That weight grief pulled at my chest. Constant, uneven, loud, in its own quiet way. I wore them the next time I saw Amir. He didn't notice. He asked if I'd seen the fireworks. I simply said yes. The mall smelled like pretzels and cheap perfume, the kind of place people went to pretend. Shiny floors, 2 bright lights, fake gold stores with buy one, get one signs, flapping like broken promises. We walked past them all, arm in arm, like we belonged there, like we belonged anywhere. Ashley's hand was warm in mine, but her grip stayed loose, like she didn't want to leave fingerprints. Her lock swung over one shoulder, bright, loud, performative. She dyed them just last week. I knew because their stink still had green streaks staining the porcelain, but she didn't scrub it out. Said it looked intentional. That was her word lately, intentional. Like chaos could be curated. People stared, but I didn't mind. Ashley seemed to feed on it. "Let's go in here," she said, tugging me toward a boutique that sold glittering crystals and overpriced incense bundles. She looped her fingers through mine and pressed her hip lightly against my side. "I want to buy you something." I smiled. It was cute. It was almost sweet. But I watched the way her eyes scanned the room, searching for anyone watching us. The softness in her voice only came when men were nearby. And Amir had texted her earlier. "Y'all out? Send a pic." That's why she was performing. I knew. But knowing and accepting were 2 different wars. We passed the crystal kiosk, rows of shiny rose quartz, amethysts and pyramids promising energy cleansing for $19.99, plastic trays lined with velvet, little tags offering buzzwords like alignment, balance, and protection. Everything was for sale, even healing. Ashley tapped a perfect orb with her long acrylic nails. "These look like yours." I picked it up, rolled it in my palm, cold, hollow. "It's too polished," I said. "I like mine raw." She blinked. "Why?" Exactly. She didn't get it. I shrugged. In the fitting room, I untied the small green and white pouch from my Loungefly bag. Ashley looked at it sideways. "That the worm again?" It was in my bag too. I nodded, placing it carefully on the bench before reaching into my pocket. "Close your eyes." Ashley smirked. "Why?" "Because I made you something." She obeyed, and for a second the air softened. I knelt and wrapped the waist beads low around her hips. They were delicate, cool greens and milky whites, copper hook at the end. They'd taken me hours to make. I had blessed them quietly as I worked, praying for softness, protection, maybe even loyalty. Ash looked down. "Oh, Amir's gonna love these," she said, barely looking at me. I didn't flinch, just stood up. I didn't make them for Amir. Ashley turned around, eyes softening a little. I know. But she didn't. Not really. We stepped to the register after she swindled me into buying shoes. A man in a green do-rag passed and whistled low. "Damn, y'all together?" Ashley giggled, leaned in closer to my neck. "Yeah, we together." Later in the food court, we shared greasy fries. Sat too close in one of those plastic booths that always made my thighs stick to the seat. She licked salt from her fingers and then wiped them on a napkin that didn't help. "If he ever hurts you," she said, "I'll kill him." I looked at her. She said things like that sometimes. Protection twisted into prophecy. But I think she said it to convince herself she could still do something that mattered. That she could stop anything from breaking. That she hadn't already started the cracking herself. We didn't talk much after that. Walked through Forever 21 without speaking. Touched fabrics we wouldn't buy. She picked up a bubble skirt and said it was cute if you're toxic, then put it back like it had teeth. In the parking lot, she hugged me like a joke. Quick, shallow, barely touching. Her locks smell like coconut oil. On the drive home, she skipped a Brent Fayez song. Too slow, she said. She sang along with some TikTok song. When we got back to the house, she went straight to Amir's lap. She lifted her shirt to flash the beads. Look what Shay made me. Amir grinned, pretty. And I already knew. Ashley was never going to be mine. That night, I sat on my bed and opened the drawer. Her beads were sitting there, curled into themselves like a secret. After she removed them earlier, she never touched them again. Forgotten. Never to be worn again. The lake water licked at our ankles like it wanted to confess something. Amir had promised this would be our time. No Ashley, just us. His phone buzzed in his pocket every 7 minutes. I pretended not to count. I didn't need him to ignore Ashley. I just needed him to stop hiding. Stop splitting himself into pieces and calling it peace. I'd made a cuff from the melted headphones, hammering the copper flat until it gleamed like a fresh scar. The edges spiraled. When I pressed it into my wrist, it left ridges I could read like Braille, like a story etched in silence. Tell me what you thinking, Amir said, handing me a strawberry gone soft in the heat. I took it. That fruit bruises easier than people. He laughed like I was joking. His hand slid up my thigh, warm and heavy. We made love with the sun watching, his mouth on my neck like he was trying to drink me whole, his hands gentle in a way that made me ache more, not less. Afterward, he pressed his palm to my chest and whispered, "This is mine." I didn't answer. The water erased our footprints as we left. Back home, I hung the cuff above my workbench. Copper bends before it breaks. Amir sent me a video later. Him and Ashley tangled in sheets. Her legs over his shoulder. Both of them laughing. The camera caught everything. Skin, breath, love. It made me smile, and it made me ache. Not because I wanted to be her, not because I wanted to be in the video, but because I wanted the truth of it, the realness, the part where they weren't trying to prove anything, just being shameless in their happiness. I knew I wasn't going to get moments like that with her. I was never jealous. He did the same with me for the most part. Mirrors, low lighting, his lips on my neck. Those were real moments too. When he let them be. When he wasn't performing. When his eyes were hungry and kind at the same time. But it didn't happen often. Not really. Ashley didn't like to be seen with me unless someone else was watching. She didn't hold my hand unless it was theater. So she made me uncomfortable by proxy. And she never said my name when she touched me. I wasn't jealous of their love. I wanted to add to it. I liked how Ashley smiled when Amir kissed her. I liked when they curled up on the couch together and when her laugh was real and he was quiet in the way that meant he was happy. I just didn't like that I was in the background. I didn't like that my presence had to be managed. Love that requires permission isn't love. Later that week, Amir took me to a flea market, one of my favorite places. We bought mangoes and a vinyl record player. You're quiet again, he said as we walked hand in hand. I'm always quiet, I said absentmindedly, staring at a beautiful woman browsing the kiosk in front of us. She was more my type than Ashley, but I had fallen for Amir, and they came as a package. I respected that. What are you thinking? What are you thinking I'm thinking? He looked down at the mango in his hand like it held answers. I don't want to push Ashley. Then don't, I said. But stop calling it love if you're not going to fight for it. That night I dreamed I was underwater. Ashley's beads around my neck. They pulled tight. Amir was on the shore with the camera, filming, smiling. The first time Ashley and I had sex alone, 3 things became painfully clear. 1, her claim of being with one girl before was either a bold-faced lie or that poor woman deserved a Purple Heart. 2, someone need to explain why you don't bring a wild bush to a tribbing session unless you're starting a campfire. 3, those sloth nails were an act of war. We'd been tipsy on Amir's liquor when she straddled me, giggling like a YouTube prankster. Her green locks tickled my collarbone. I want to try, she whispered, all breathly like a low-budget porno. Should have known then. Before she touched me, I had even set a chair in the corner, just in case Amir showed up. Part of me hoped he would. Not because I wanted him involved, but because I didn't want to be alone with the awkwardness. He didn't come. Of course he didn't. That chair sat empty like a joke I didn't know I was telling. The moment her bush grazed my thigh, I had flashbacks to childhood. Wrestling on my friend's grandmother's shag rug, the scratchy kind that clings to your soul. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood, torn between laughter and a very real concern for my epidermis. When she ground down again, I grabbed her hips partly to guide, partly to prevent friction burns. Love, I panted. You ever heard of a razor? She paused, offended. You don't like it? It's not that, I lied. I hate when girls act like body hair is gross, she huffed, rolling off like I'd insulted her. I stared at the ceiling. She pouted for 4 seconds, 5, if you counted the dramatic side, before yanking open my nightstand. Fine, we'll use this. What she pulled out looked like a neon purple lightsaber from Star Trek Meets Sex Dungeon crossover episode. What followed wasn't sex. It was a crime scene reenactment. At one point, she hit my cervix so hard, I briefly met Harriet Tubman. When I yelped, Ashley smiled like she unlocked a new achievement. Oh my gosh, it's so wet. Ashley, that's blood. She blinked. Oh. I was waddling to the bathroom, clutching toilet paper like a wounded soldier. Ashley was still naked, the toy weakly beside her like it had fought in the war and lost. I slammed the door. Outside, those damn wind chimes Amir had hung last week clanged in the wind like laughter, mocking me. I stood in the mirror and saw it all clearly. Ashley wasn't into women. She was into Amir. And I was a side quest she thought she needed to complete for approval points. She didn't see me. She hadn't thought about where her hands would go or what would make me feel safe. She just climbed on and rolled the plastic like I was a man. Like she didn't care about the difference. Being new to women isn't the same thing as being careless. When you want someone, really want them, you think, you trim, you wash, you plan where your hands will go and where you want to be kissed just in case. That's respect. That's consideration. That's baseline. She didn't even try. The next morning, I hammered one of the chimes flat. Copper bends easier than truth. I wrapped it into a cuff, embedded a piece of petrified wood into it. Something that used to live, now fossilized. Just like me, apparently. Ashley noticed at brunch. Looks heavy, she said, eyes on my wrist. I sipped my mimosa. It's supposed to be. She laughed, loud enough for the man at the next table to look over. Performance mode on. And that's when it hit me. Really hit me. She was afraid. Afraid of losing Amir. Afraid of being second best. Afraid of being unloved. So she performed. Even in bed. My vagina has always been the most honest part of me. When I lost my virginity at 14, I cried so hard the boy asked if he broke something. When Amir first touched me, I puked. Not from regret, but because my body has never tolerated bullshit. So, yeah, I should have seen the BV coming. 2 days after Ashley's dry humping death match, I caught the scent. Not your usual post-sex funk. This was darker. Like if a seafood buffet and a pair of old gym socks had a baby and then set it on fire for warmth. Google confirmed my fears. Bacterial vaginosis. Nature's passive-aggressive Yelp review. 1 star. Do not recommend. This partner has poor hygiene and questionable boundaries. Ashley, clueless. Or pretending to be. She started accidentally leaving windows open, fanning herself like we live in a damn greenhouse. Amir, of course, noticed nothing. The man didn't even clock that I switched from being 2 knots to a head wrap for 3 days. You think he gonna pick up on the scent of biological betrayal? Later, I text my sister's circle group chat. So, Ashley gave me BV. Vaughn's reply was instant. Bitch, not pissy wolf pussy. Megan, hot damn. Did you tell her? Tell her what? I type back that her coochie is biohazardous, at least to me. Nah, I'll let God sort them out. I giggle to myself about the new Clips album. Vaughn, nah, let me handle that. Bitch wanna play toxic. I side her a link to Summer's Eve and a prayer. Megan, Shay, you know we love you, but this girl, something's off. You sure she even into women? I paused. Ashley's performative touches, the way she stiffened when I held her hand in public as if she was waiting for an audience to applaud her bravery. Vaughn, If she was nicer, she'd be welcome here. But she treats you like competition, not family, and you don't play games with somebody's heart. Candy finally chimed in. What did I miss? Look, Shay, I get it. You happy with Amir, but happiness shouldn't come with a side effect of bacterial infections. I decided to think on it, but first I needed to handle this garbage juice between my thighs. Enter the Great Garlic Experiment. Reddit said to enter a clove like I was warding off vampires, so I did. Wrapped it in gauze, said a prayer, and hope for the best. By hour 2, I smelled like an Italian kitchen at rush hour. Amir walked in sniffing. Why does it smell like that in the kitchen in here? I clamped my thighs shut. Prayer ritual. Next up, the yogurt phase. I slathered myself in Greek yogurt like my coochie was a parched plant begging for hydration. Then I ate the rest straight from the tub while watching the bear. If I was going to suffer, I was going to snack. But the final straw, Amir had the nerve to blame my diet. Maybe it's because you started eating meat again, he shrugged. You know, your body's used to vegan stuff. I stared at him like I was about to go see the Chucky on him. Your dick has been raw inside of me for years. Not once have we had an issue. Your girlfriend hunches on me with a chia pet and Wolverine claws once. And the burger I've been having for lunch is the problem. He backed out of the room like I was a possessed doll. While waiting on antibiotics to do their holy work, I twisted copper wire into an anklet. Rough leather cord, no clasp. You want it off? You work for it. Ashley saw it at the bar a week later, reaching for a man's bicep like I wasn't there. Cute, she said, smirking. I yanked her back. It's not supposed to be cute. She pouted but didn't pull away, choosing to gulp down her lemon drop instead. That was Ashley. Always dragging a leash, never really trying to chew through it. At 2 a.m., Amir text, y'all good? I said to pick up my anklet under the strobe lights. He replied with a heart emoji. Later that week, I saw her newly shaved puss in Amir's phone. I was not remotely interested in her anymore, romantically. But I was going to try harder to connect as friends because I still believe this could work. The antibiotics cleared the infection, but the lesson was just as clear. Ashley kept pretending, Amir kept pretending, and me, I kept the anklet. Ashley was determined to be the main character. Every room, every night, every shared breath. She wanted center stage, even if it meant setting the whole scene on fire just to make the smoke about her. We planned the night for weeks. Candles, silk sheets, the kind of grown folks intimacy that smells like body oil and forgiveness. Something that's soft, mutual, something earned. But somewhere between Amir mixing cocktails, like we were on vacation, and Ashley deciding she was Beyonce drunk in love, the vibe curdled. Hey, maybe slow down? I said, watching her tip another shot back, like she was trying to win custody of the bottle. She grinned, all gums and delusion. I'm fine. I'll do this all the time. And that is when I saw it. It was so transparent, I could have used it as a window on a sunny day with no blinds. She was nervous, and fear always dressed itself in confidence when the lights glow. By the time we made it to the bedroom, the energy was holding on by dental floss. I had just clasped the sapphire necklace I made her, hammered copper, delicate chain, the stone warmed against her collarbone. A blessing in blue. Amir kissed her shoulder. I kissed her hip. For one suspended a second, it felt like we were finally synced. Then she sat straight up, like she just remembered the stove was on. I just need some water, she muttered, her voice wobbling like her spine. I blinked. Now? She nodded, Eyes glassy, cheeks flush. Too hot. Be right back. Naked and glistening, she slid off the bed like a baby deer. Her balance, non-existent. Her dignity, trailing behind like a toilet paper on a shoe. We watched as she staggered down the hallway, still half moaning like foreplay was a group project. Then, thud. Follow up by a wigger. Then silence. The kind of silence that says someone's ass just lost the battle with gravity. Amir and I locked eyes. Told you, I mouthed. He rushed out to find her splayed across the hardwood, one tit smashed against her arm, the other facing heaven, a water glass set 2 feet away, completely fine, unlike her. Ash, he nudged with his foot like she was a possum, and he didn't want to scare. She answered with a soft groan and a single burp that smelled like regret. I crouched beside her, gently lifting her wrist like I was checking for signs of life. Amir knelt to pick her up. Her limbs flopped like an overcooked noodle. Why does this keep happening? He muttered, half to himself. Because you allow her to behave like a child. Annoyance seeped from me. We dumped her on the couch. She immediately curled into the fetal position and let out a snore that sounded like a spiritual surrender. Back in the bedroom, the candles had burned low. The playlist had looped twice. The silk sheets were cold. I stood at the edge of the bed like a disappointed mother waiting on a child to explain themselves. Amir looked at me hopeful. Like maybe we could just pick up where we left off. I stepped back. Your girlfriend just ruined sex by passing out during the opening credits. I'm not the commercial break between her bad choices. He sighed. I'm sorry. I'm not mad, I said, wrapping my headscarf tighter. I'm just not in the mood anymore. Because the fantasy had popped. All I wanted was peace with her. Sadly, it appeared she doesn't and would never have any. This was who and what she was. The next morning, Ashley blamed the tequila. Amir blamed the weed. I hammered wire into another necklace, this one with an emerald. I was tired of walking around like a footnote in their love story. They kept pretending. Meanwhile, I kept crafting. I wired copper and trauma into another piece of myself I would have to forgive because I continued to fight for Amir's dream more than he did. Every night at 8:30 p.m., my phone becomes an altar to something dying slowly. We named the group chat Love with 3 E's. I added them because I was still in my future phase and because I used to sing the hook off key to myself during our honeymoon phase. Me, 8:30 p.m. How was everyone's day? It started as a ritual, a little digital tether to keep us close, like tying string around your fingers so you don't forget something important, like love, maybe, or effort, or each other. Now it's just muscle memory, a performative ping, a countdown to disappointment. Amir at 8:32 p.m. Good. Tired. You? At least he rotates that hats. Busy, solid, long. The man's turned the same 3 adjectives into a calendar year. Ashley, 8:35 p.m. Great. Always with the exclamation point. Never more than 4 words unless Amir is watching her type. Then she'll stretch it out. I used to pry. Used to peel her sentences open like fruit, trying to see if anything juicy still lived inside. What made it great? Did you finish that project? Tell me one beautiful thing you saw today. But Ashley didn't answer real questions. She performs connections like a magician performs magic, distracting you from the empty hand. She didn't want me. She wanted the idea of me, the safety net, the feminine energy, the applause of queer proximity without the work of real intimacy. When we were all together, Amir played the referee, tried to smooth the tension with stories and hand-holding. He'd slide his palm across the table and say things like, "Did you tell Shay about your promotion?" Ashley would look at him first, always him. Her mouth never moved unless his eyes gave permission. Then maybe, "Oh, right, got a raise." Tossed like a breadcrumb. No eye contact, no joy. And before I could ask a follow-up, she'd pivot. "Babe, did you see that new sushi place?" Back to him, like I wasn't sitting right there. I started collecting her broken conversations like receipts I forgot to throw out. "Quasi read that, huh?" said while I was soaking wet from a tropical storm. "We should do this more often," said every time I saw her, never initiated once. "I love your energy," when she couldn't remember what I said, just how I made her feel needed. Last Tuesday, I tested a theory. Didn't text first, didn't check in, didn't ask how anyone was doing. 9:58 p.m. Amir, forgot to check in tonight. I had been texting him all day like usual. Our rhythm never faltered more than a few hours. He filled the space Ashley left empty. I hated that because I wanted her also. Ashley liked his message, didn't say anything, didn't ask where I went, didn't ask if I was okay. That same day I had spent 6 hours hunched over my bench, shaping 2 custom rings for a new client. One smooth, one hammered. Wore them both on my right hand while I typed. Me. Just tired. Sweet dreams. They didn't ask why. Didn't ask what I was tired from. Didn't ask if my day was great. That night, Ashley posted a selfie. Caption, soft air loading. Perfect lashes, glazed lips. I used to beg the universe to help me keep us whole. I lit candles, whispered affirmations, took long showers to cry without making noise. I read threads on ethical polyamory until my eyes blurred. I wanted to do this right, to love both, to be held by both, to be real to both. But I was the only one loving out loud. They loved for convenience. They loved for witness. No curiosity, no mirror, just me reflecting everyone else back to themselves. At 10:23 p.m. next night, I left the group chat. Not a dramatic exit. No, thanks for nothing text. Just gone. No one noticed. Not that night. Not the next. 2 days later, Amir texts me privately. "Everything okay?" I didn't answer. Instead, I bent a strip of copper, handled it flat, carved the words, "Surrender is my testament," into the inner band. It wasn't a ring. It was a gravestone for the version of me that kept begging to belong in rooms where I was only invited to applaud. The mold in my bathroom grew in the shape of a question mark. I noticed it the same week my electricity bill arrived. $387 for a house where the heater wheezed like it was on palliative care. It took 3 days and a flashlight to figure out Mrs. Johnson next door had been siphoning my power. Her orange extension cord crept under the fence like a thief with arthritis. I didn't tell Amir. What would I even say? That I came home, sat in a toxic tub, scrubbing the scent of annoyance from my skin that made ugly earrings, mismatch, copper and bone, because pain is proof I haven't disintegrated yet? He'd say, "That's wild," and go back to scrolling on TikTok. Ashley wouldn't get it either. The one time I mentioned the mold, she wrinkled her nose and said, "Ew, just move." like leases and security deposits were things you could dig out of a couch cushion. Like suffering made her uncomfortable unless she could accessorize it. And then came Takeyla. I never met her before that Saturday. I was visiting Amir and Ashley. She showed up with loud energy and tighter box braids than her scalp could handle. A white girl, trying to wear blackness like a weekend wig. Oh, you're the girl he cheated with. I mean, the poly girl. She said to me, not even trying to be polite. Ashley said, you make stuff or whatever. Amir was sitting, stirring lemonade, like this was just a regular afternoon. Like I hadn't just been called a homewrecker to my face. I kept my cool. Ashley, she snickers. A soft giggle of betrayal. That's how I knew. She'd been talking to me, everybody about but me. Takeyla hated me on contact like she'd been trained for it, like she be hand scripted. A few months before I learned Takeyla wasn't just a friend. Ashley kept her close because Takeyla had children. I knew Ashley was great with kids and desperate to be the part of somebody's village, even if it meant babysitting proximity instead of building her own bond. I listened as the two women reminisced about when Ashley was at the birth of Takeyla's youngest. I did not join in the conversation. It was clear I was an outsider in Amir's home at the moment. Truthfully, I understood Takeyla. I may have felt suspicious too if one of my sisters from the circle suddenly had a sister wife. I respected the woman. I sighed. It was one thing to be poly. It was another to have to deal with closed-mindedness. I looked out the door. Takeyla's daughter, well, stepdaughter technically, was outside herding her younger siblings like an unpaid rancher. Serenity Aya, but everyone called her Bird, a name she clearly hated. Thin arms, 15 going on 40. She reminded me of myself, too responsible, not enough oxygen, the kind of girl who learns early that peace has to be earned. Later, after the awkwardness faded, Takeyla left with her cute little family in tow. I tried to say something kind, fishing for anything positive. Takeyla's such a good mom. I offered to cut the silence. I knew Ashley had been talking negatively about me, but I did not want to dwell on that at the moment. Ashley didn't blink. Girl, please. Bird does all the parenting. Takeyla just pretends while Drake pays the bills. Said it like gossip, like a joke. Not even a flicker of remorse. Honestly, I didn't believe that. I saw a real mother like stress on Takeyla. She made it look easy, but she was definitely managing all those children. Serenity may have helped, but Takeyla had those kids in line and taken care of. And that was the moment I saw her clearly. She didn't want a sister of any kind. She wanted a mirror she could feel superior to. Someone beneath her to reflect back her faux shine. And I didn't want to be near that kind of woman. This wasn't even the type of friend I could trust. Least of all, somebody I'd ever want to be in a relationship with. She was the kind of person who called every woman sis until it came time to be one privately. She was pretending with everyone. She weaponizes softness when there's an audience, but never when you needed it. Later that night, Amir texts, thinking about you. I threw the phone across the bed. That man is always thinking, never doing, never showing up for me. He was loud and proud, poly guy online, lacking leadership in his real life relationships. Pretending confidence is the same thing as character. Most times, he doesn't realize all I wanted was a damn hug. Not sex, not attention, presence. The earrings I started sat on my nightstand, unfinished and raw. A little beautiful in the way broken things sometimes are. The next morning, I left for work at 6:30. The sun wasn't up. Neither was Ashley. She never woke up early. It was now clear all I ever did was try to love her. She saw warmth and assumed it meant invasion. I could not help that I met Amir first. Somewhere between the mold, the power theft, and Michaela's Stepford smile, I realized Ashley's crown was plastic. Her kingdom was pretend, but the delusion was real and expensive. It was costing her time. It was costing her honesty. It was costing her me. And Amir, he had loyalty to us both until accountability knocked. But I kept showing up, even when they didn't deserve it. That morning, the earrings didn't get finished, but I did. Something in me solidified. Not anger or resentment, just clarity. The oranges were perfect. I'd picked them out like little suns, plump, warm from the stall, their skins blushing under my fingertips. I could already hear Ashley's laugh as she peeled one, see the juice trailing down her wrist before she licked it off with that smug smirk. I pictured Amir too, fingers sticky, mouth hot and sweet, sucking the pulp from mine like dessert. He wasn't coming on this trip though. I only wanted to bond with Ashley today, but Ashley canceled. Cramps. One word, no emoji, no maybe later, just enough to make it technically not ghosting. I went anyway. Spread the checkered cloth under the oak by the lake where we were supposed to be tangled up in something resembling affection. Smoothed it with hands, still smelling faintly of antiseptic from my shift. I dressed for her. Short skirt, copper anklets that chime with each step, toe rings, catching the sunlight like little spells. The fisherman didn't even glance up. Not once. Not when I walked past. Not when I bent to spread the blanket. Not when I stretched languidly like a cat warming its spine. His eyes stayed fixed on the water, like I was invisible and he was loyal to the lake. I peeled an orange, slowly. The scent misted the air, sweet and bright. The first slice burst open, tart, bright on my tongue. And for a moment, I wasn't thinking about Ashley or Amir or any of the ways I'd been made to feel optional. For a moment, it was just the sun stroking my skin, kissing my collarbones and thighs with a lover's attention. The breeze curled around my ankles. The grass beneath the blanket was still damp, cool against the back of my legs. My copper anklets hummed softly with every breath. Warm now, sun-soaked, as if they remembered dancing. I loved being alone like this. I loved being mine. My body felt like mine. The gloss of lotion, the shimmer of skin, the pulse between my legs that came not from want, but from fullness. The lake saw me. The earth held me. The sun adored me. I laughed a bit too loud at the thought of inviting Mir instead, just to feed me cum-covered fruit like a goddess. My face flushed. That black girl blush that shows up in the cheeks, the nose, and the ears, everywhere but where white folks expect. My phone buzzed. Megan Chelsea Wynn, because of course she's full naming herself. Did the fake Polly princess stand you up again? Or are you just ignoring me? She flaked. I tossed an orange slice into the lake. It floated for a second before it gave up and sank. Megan. Bitch. Affectionate, furious, protective. Again? She didn't need an answer. Megan always knew. She called. I answered on the first ring. Listen, she said, ice clinking in the background. Probably something spiked. Probably in a wine glass she stole from her last situationship. I'm gonna say this once, out of love. Then we moving the fuck on, because this sunshine is too good to waste on this. Ashley is not your sister wife. She's not even your friend. She's just a girl who got Amir first and resents the universe didn't make her enough to keep this particular man. Why be with a poly man at all if you can't handle it? I sighed, falling back into the blanket, letting the sun bleach the acne out my bones. It's not that simple. It is. Megan didn't even hesitate. She insecure, competitive, and she rather sabotage you than admit she rather compete than connect. Ugh, I murmured. Megan's laugh was like a shot of whiskey, sharp, warm, always a little too raw. I loved her for her honesty. What was the excuse this time? Let me guess. Her nails were taking 4 hours again. Cramps. Bitch, she cackled. It was a term of endearment for her. She being held hostage by a uterus? Please be for real. Maybe her uterus is dramatic. Nah, her womb probably has more self-awareness. Megan sipped something loud and deadly. So you just out there, edible as hell, with a whole ass picnic and no one to feed? Pfft, pathetic. There is a fisherman out here. I chuckled. Girl, fuck you. You wish. We both giggled. Seriously, Megan said quieter now. Toss the whole girlfriend in the lake. She's never gonna be what you want. She don't want love. She want leverage. That landed. Ashley didn't want a partner. She wanted to outshine, to outlast. I picked up another slice of orange. She talked shit about her bestie too. All day is best friend this, best friend that. Then she turns around and calls her fate the second she leave the room. It's exhausting. I want to tell Takeyla, but I already know she ain't gonna believe me. Not for me. I'm just a whore who stole Ashley's man. I shook my head at the sky. Of course she talks about her. Insecure people collect allies like weapons. And Ashley, baby, she building a whole arsenal. I'll be polite if I have to, for you, but don't think for 1 second she do the same. The sun lowered, scattering light like a gold leaf over the lake. I thought about Michaela's stepdaughter, Bird, corralling the younger ones like a child mother. About Ashley's empty laughs and Amir's distant texts. About the mold in my bathroom, shaped like a question mark. Megan's voice dipped into something soft and loving. It was the tone she used when she meant it. You deserve better, Shay. Not this performance art you're calling a relationship. Not whatever crumbs they throw when they remember you're real. I swallowed the last slice. The sweetness had turned bitter at the edges, like it overheard everything. I know. We stayed on the phone as the sun sank behind the trees, trading insults and laughter like a shield, because that's what love is sometimes. Not roses and closure, but someone who calls you bitch like a lifeline. When it got too dark to see, I tossed the rest of the oranges into the lake. Watched them sink, one by one. By the time I had packed up the blanket, my thighs were warm with the late afternoon light. Not the sting of abandonment, just the quiet glow of a body at rest. A body that knew finally how to hold itself. As I folded the cloth, I thought of the girl I used to be. The one who would have carved herself into a smaller, sweeter shape just to fit in someone's palm. The one who mistook longing for love. That night, when Amir texted, thinking about you, I didn't rage. Didn't reply. Just set the phone aside and reached for my pliers. Amir's cruelty tastes like dark honey, thick and intoxicating. The kind of sweetness that clings to your teeth long after you've swallowed. I could have walked away. I should have walked away. But his voice anchored me, thick and sticky like molasses poured over an open wound. You'd let me ruin you, wouldn't you? His fingers tightened in my hair just shy of painful. His voice was a blade wrapped in velvet. You'd let me take you apart and put you back together. Wrong. The words shouldn't have made my pulse flutter, shouldn't have sent heat pooling low, but they did, because they were true. And truth between us had always been the sharpest aphrodisiac. I didn't answer, didn't need to. My silence was my surrender, my violence, my devotion all at once. He smiled slow, knowing, then slapped me. Not out of anger, but ceremony. His palm cracked against my cheek, the sting humming bright and immediate. I exhaled not from fear, but from the rightness of it. The way his touch, even brutal, felt like scripture, like language carved in bone, a relief only we understood. This wasn't about power. The beast in me didn't cower. It recognized the beast in him. Ashley would have screamed, would have called it abuse, would have begged me to leave. But Ashley wasn't here, and this wasn't for her. My apartment was still except for Amir's voice curling through the dim kitchen like smoke. I come to the garden alone. He sang low and dangerous, the gospel hymn dragging like a big blade across the dark. His fingers traced the knife on the counter, turning it slowly under the gold light from the candles, while the dew is still on the roses. My thighs pressed together as the hymn drifted through the room like incense. He sang like he was worshiping me. He was so beautiful I could barely breathe. This was prayer with teeth. I should have been afraid. I wasn't. The hymn wrapped around us like a noose as he flipped the knife, offering me the handle while his grip stayed tight on the blade. Blood welled between his fingers, dark and slow, the color of communion wine. And he walks with me. His free hand cut my jaw, smearing crimson across my cheekbone. And he talks with me. The knife handle pressed cold against my palm, his blood dripping warm onto my wrist. And he tells me I am his own. The last note hung in the air, blasphemous and beautiful. A man blessing the feast in front of him. He trusted me to take the handle. The blood was collateral, not sacrifice. It wasn't self-harm. It was reckless trust. He held the blade so I could hold the truth. He didn't just want to be worshipped. He wanted to be understood. Touched where it hurt most and loved anyway. He didn't fix the broken in me. He made it holy. Later, when the knife lay discarded and his palm stopped bleeding, Amir pressed his forehead to mine. You see me, he said. Not a question, a revelation. You allow me, I whispered back. I licked the cut on his hand. The metallic tang bloomed across my tongue like truth. That night, I pierced my cartilage. A quick, sharp pop of pain that made my eyes water. I slid a tiny copper knife earring into the fresh room while he watched with his eyes dark with pride, hunger, something that felt almost holy. It wasn't an earring. It was a vow. His blood, my pain, our proof. When I winced, he caught the tear on his thumb and brought it to his mouth. Mine, he murmured against the sting. Yours, I breathed. We weren't lovers. We were twisted reflections. She's like the mask, he said once, trailing fingers over the scar on his shoulder. You like the monster. By morning, the cut on his hand was already scabbing over, but I could still taste him on my tongue. He stood by the stove humming the same hymn as he passed me a mug, handle first, with a soft, sinful smile. A fresh bite beneath his collarbone sat like a beautiful bloom. Ashley texted me at noon. Movie night? Popcorn? I ran my thumb over the copper knife in my ear and replied, Of course, love. I still wanted a sister wife. The pastor had never met Yair John Collins Washington. You could hear it in his voice. It was too smooth, too scripted. He spoke like someone who only seen Yair's name on a folded piece of paper, handed to him 5 minutes before stepping behind that podium. A light gone too soon. A quiet soul called home. Bullshit. Yair was loud, slick, and arrogant as hell. He was the kind of man who made money like it was a dare and smiled like he knew every room belonged to him. That pastor didn't know a damn thing about him. Couldn't even pronounce his name right. Ashley sobbed like she had lost a brother. Sniffles so loud they echoed off the church ceiling. She had the nerve to sit front row. I stared at her. Ashley had only met Yair once. Twice. Once at Amir's cookout where she spent the whole night swatting mosquitoes and wrinkling her nose every time he talked. Another time at a club where she told me he was doing too much and ordered another shot before he finished his sentence. Now here she was, collapsing like a widow, snot bubbling, clutching a napkin like the Holy Spirit might rapture her. Amir stood like a monolith. Didn't blink, didn't speak, didn't cry. His face was unreadable. He'd driven us there in silence, walking up the church steps like gravity meant nothing. Sat through the whole service without twitching once, even as people lied in loving memory of someone they barely knew. That was the thing about Amir. When he hurt, he didn't leak. He imploded. I couldn't do it. I didn't really know Yair personally. I was strictly there in support of Amir. This was his friend of 20 years. Couldn't sit there and watch him be that sad. But he wouldn't allow any sympathy on his behalf when it was his friend who was no longer here. I respected that. Still, I held his hand like a lifeline. When they stood for the final prayer, I slipped out the back door before they could throw dirt. My shoes crunched over gravel as the preacher's voice rang out behind me, still faking like he knew something sacred. That night, I didn't speak to Amir before going home. I didn't text Ashley back. I didn't even answer my mother's calls when I knew she was going to ask how Amir was holding up. Instead, I lit a fire. I burned bay leaves in a cast iron bowl I only use for this kind of thing. Wrote Yair's full name in red on a leaf. Watched it blacken and curl. Watched the smoke rise slow. I paid my respects in my own way at my own altar. Next, I wrote 23 Psalm on rice paper. I wrote it small, careful, each line of prayer. The Lord is my shepherd. The fire ate it fast. I didn't cry, not then. I saved the tears for later when I pulled the tin I'd filled with objects from Yair's final resting place. He sat under a pine tree, strong, rooted, just roots and dirt and silence. I left pennies at the base of the trunk and said, I'll only take what you're willing to give. And then I gathered what I needed. Slow, respectful, just enough to clay to fill my container, nothing more. I mixed the clay with the ash of my petition and my own tears. No holy water, no oils, just what my body gave, grief, sweat, and quiet mourning. Kneaded it slow in my palms as I whispered, yet though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. My voice called a few times as I prayed peace for Amir and rest for his friend, but I wasn't sure anyone else really was. I shaped 10 beads, small and uneven, intentionally imperfect. Grief isn't symmetrical. With the needle I carved into them, Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Let the beads dry on a bed of pine needles I'd pocketed from the same grave tree. Resin clung to my fingertips. My hands smelled like morning. Then came the smoke. Frankincense and myrrh. I cleansed the beads of my own energy. My grief for Amir was irrelevant. His grief for his friend was everything. I didn't know if I'd ever give them to him. I just knew he needed to be held, even if he wouldn't ask, even if he flinched at the gesture. Some men don't know how to grieve out loud. Some don't know how to be touched gently during pain. They only know how to break. So I made something that wouldn't break. My love. I placed the bleeded bracelet in a box I built years ago. A cedar salt-filled contraption with dried lavender and rose petals lining the bottom. Crystals I charged under the last full moon nestled under the beads like guardians. Amethyst and obsidian, stones that whispered, you are still here. You are not alone. Yair would have laughed at all of this, called it witchy. But he'd have kept the beads, quietly, tucked them away like a talisman. He wasn't a fool. Big ego, bigger ambition. Amir loved that about him. I met him once, briefly, just long enough to remember the look he gave me, sizing me up like I was a question he already had the answer to. I leaned in with that cocky grin, shook my hand too long and said, be careful with him. Amir's used to being worshipped, not seen. His eyes conveyed how serious he was. I didn't know what he meant then. I do now. Now all Amir has is silence, not even tears. And all I had to give him is a box full of beads, salt, ash, and things I can't say out loud. The kind of love that can't be offered in words. The kind of grief you don't scream. The kind you wear. I closed the lid, didn't lock it, didn't label it, just left it on the windowsill to charge in the moonlight. If he ever asked, it was his. If he never did, it still carried him. Because some grief doesn't need to be shared to be sacred. Some love doesn't need to be accepted to be real. Ashley texted me around midnight. You good? You disappeared. I stared at the screen and let it sit. Ran my thumb along the edge of the cedar box and typed, "Yeah, good night." Press send. Some truths live better in silence. Some love stays unspoken, but it doesn't make it any less real. Amir played Trust like a love song, rhythmic and addictive. The car hummed with that thick silence that hangs right after a lie when everyone's pretending it wasn't told, but no one can quite breathe around it. The air was humid with tension. When the beat dropped, Amir's fingers tapped the steering wheel, measured, and practiced. "You told me I could trust you," I sang quietly. "Don't lie. I could really use it." Out the window, traffic lights blurred red and gold, but all I could see was Lynn's name flash on his lock screen 2 nights ago. Her voice note playing softly in the background as he handed me his phone by mistake. The same R&B track now humming through the speakers, the one he sent her along with the mirror selfie marked Progress. The same one he played for me while my legs were wrapped around him like a prayer. From the back seat, Ashley sighed long and dreamy. "This is so romantic." Romantic? She didn't know. Or maybe she did. Maybe she learned how to swallow betrayal in one gulp and chase it with Amir's attention like wine. She was always so good at playing content. Like, if she acted grateful enough, maybe he'd finally choose her to be his wife. "I didn't want to say anything," she once whispered to me, mascara smudge and breath wine sweet. "I didn't want it to come between us." Between who? Because Amir sat there now with his half-smile eyes flicking between us in the rearview mirror like a man watching 2 chess pieces he owned. He loved this. Tension between women who never agreed to compete. He built his world on it, fed off of it. 3 days later, Ashley practically dragged me to her stylist. "You'll love her," she gushed, linking her arm through mine too tight. "She's magical with locks." The salon smelled like coconut oil and deception. When Lynn turned around, I recognized her instantly. She didn't need to introduce herself. I'd seen her before. In Amir's secret Facebook group, in his late night texts, in the fire emojis under his half-naked posts. She was the woman who called him king, the one whose name had been popping up in my dreams like a curse. "Ashley, babe," Lynn cooed, ear kissing like they were sisters instead of rivals orbiting the same gravitational womb. Then her gaze slid to me. "And you must be Shay," I said steady. Her pupils flickered. She knew exactly who I was. The girl Amir whispered about but never posted. Ashley flopped in a chair like royalty, giddy and unaware. "Lynn did my hair color last summer when Kevin cheated on me with his cousin," she chirped, laughing too loud. "I was such a mess back then." "Look at you now," Lynn purred, sectioning her hair. "Glowing. Amir's so attentive, isn't he?" She glanced at me with sugar and poison laced into every syllable. A dare. Ashley giggled, preening. "Nobody's ever made me feel this special." I felt the ache in her voice like a bruise. She meant it. She needed it. This woman who posted affirmations every morning but still begged for crumbs in private. The same woman who stayed silent when Amir pulled away from me in public. Who blamed hormones when he ignored her for days and then melted when he reappeared like a savior. She wasn't stupid. She was scared. The kind of scare that turns into shape-shifting. The kind that mistakes chaos for passion. That night, Ashley texts, saw that cute pic of you and Amir at the beach. My blood ran cold. That photo was private, visible only to my locked Facebook list. Ashley wasn't on it anymore, which meant someone sent it to her. I opened the viewer list. There she was, Lynn, third from the top. She'd screenshotted it, fed it to Ashley like bait. When I asked Ashley the next day, her eyes darted. I just saw it somewhere, she said, voice thin, picking at her chipped polish. Someone like Lynn? I asked. I don't even know her like that. The lie spilled fast. Too fast. She's just my stylist. That was the moment I stopped covering for both of them. I've protected Ashley from the worst of Amir's cruelty, defended her when she was drunk and texting apologies, ignored his late-night absences to spare her hope, let her believe she was the chosen one because she needed to believe it. And all the while she protected the woman sleeping with her boyfriend just to hold on to the illusion of being special. You and Amir have something different, she told me once, slumped against my shoulder. He looks at you like you're a person. With me, it's just... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Ashley was performing love. Amir was performing loyalty. And I was performing silence. That night, I crafted a pendant from obsidian shaped like a closed fist. For every time I bit back the truth. For every lie I let them wrap around me like silk. For every time I tried to be the bigger person in a shrinking room. The truth? You can't save someone who loves their change. You can't reason with someone who thinks pain is proof of devotion. You can't share healing with people who survive on pretending. But me? I was done performing. Let them think me bitter. Let them call me the jealous girl. I'd wear their misjudgment like an armor. Because one day, Ashley will see the truth. And when she does, it won't be because someone told her. It'll be because the lie can't hold her anymore. Until then, I remain the only person in this mess who ever told the truth in silence. The only one who didn't lie and called it love. Ashley sent me a Facebook video. It was a girl crying in her car, talking about how people don't ask if you're okay until you've already disappeared. It implied that she was lonely and I wanted to help. I didn't want her to be lonely. No caption, no context, just a blade between ribs. I didn't know were exposed. I watched it twice. The first time with curiosity, the second time with confusion. Then I text, "Hey, are you okay? What's this about? Do you want to talk about it?" She replied, "You don't have to always fix people. You don't always have to know what's wrong." And just like that, I was the villain. Ashley never really wanted this life. Not the real version. She wanted soft focus, polyjoy, filtered selfies, 3-way photos that made her feel chosen. She wanted Amir's hunger, but only when it was aimed at me. She wanted to wear the crown, not share it. "You don't understand," she said later, when the text turned to paragraphs and paragraphs turned to calls. "Since you came into my life, everything's been hell." Hell. I just wanted to love you too. Hell? That word sat in my throat like acid. "You think this has been heaven for me?" I asked. You think I wanted to spend my nights dodging his moves and patching up your silences? She didn't answer. She never did when it got too honest. I have clothes, she snapped finally. I want to go on dates. I want to take pictures with Amir like I used to. Before you. Before the truth. Before I became the mirror they both wanted to shatter. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't about polyamory. It was about attention, control, access. I've seen this play before. My father was the first Amir I've ever met. Slick, loud, dangerous when bored. He could turn I love you into a threat without raising his voice. He told me he loved my brother more. Told me I was a disappointment in a dress. Called me fast before I even knew what it meant. But when people asked, he'd say, "That's my daughter. That's my little queen." He only bought me shoes, never clothes, never underwear. But told strangers he took me on shopping sprees. He missed my graduations, but posted poems online about how much he missed me. Bullshit. Amir was him, just prettier. Same script, different actor. I looked at that glowworm Amir gave me when we first met. It was a replica of the one my father ripped from my hands when I was 4. I'd mentioned it in passing. Amir surprised me with it. I thought it meant something. It did. It meant he listened enough to replicate the pain, just like my father. It meant he knew exactly which memories to decorate to keep me compliant. Ashley's text buzzed again. She was spiraling, blaming me for the emptiness where Amir's love used to be, as if I'd stolen it, as if I wanted the leftovers. But she never once asked if I felt safe. She never asked what it was like to be loved by a man who could break you with silence. She just wanted her turn. I stood, walked to the bench, took out the half-finished flame cuff. The copper still soft, I carved the inside with a single phrase. Not my fire. Let them burn. Let them choke on the smoke. I wasn't walking into the flames anymore. Ashley could cry into her snaps. Amir could hum another love song in a car full of lies. Lynn could keep playing informant. I wasn't their fixer or glue. I was just the one who mistook staying for love. I placed the cuff next to the others. Armor. That's all love had ever been to me. The dream came like a fever, sweat slick and inevitable. The copper cuff pressed into my wrist while I slept. Not my fire, not anymore. But my body hadn't gotten the message, not all the way. Some grief doesn't burn out, it burrows. The glowworm pulsed in my palm again, not with battery light, with something older, hungrier. Then it moved, segmented, body rippling. It climbed my arm like a judge ascending the bench. When it reached my shoulder, it turned toward me. No eyes, just a mouth, a wet gleaming slit. Watch. It hissed, then it struck. Amir first. It lunged at his throat mid-laugh. His performative chuckle he used when someone else told a joke he wished he'd made. Its jaws didn't pierce skin. They pierced lies. I want to build with you. His words unraveled like rotting stitches, black and wet threads peeling out of his mouth. He gagged, clawing at his neck, not from pain, from exposure. He looked at me then, panic blooming in his eyes, like he wanted me to stop it, like I ever could. Ashley next. She tried to run, of course. That was her thing. But the creature was faster. It coiled around her ankle and sank its teeth in. "I'll kill him if he hurts you." Her coward's mantra cracked apart and burst into something green and squirming. The thing swallowed it whole. Ashley fell to her knees, mouth open, but no words came out, only steam. Then the fire. The glowworm arched, shell splitting down the spine like a seed pod. Light poured out viciously, unholy. It licked up walls, ceilings, and faces. Everything they ever called love burned. Amir's hands charred to the bone. Ashley's locks turned to candle wicks. The lies didn't scream. They sizzled. The grotesque figure looked at me, now pure flame, and laughed. A sound like shattered stained glass. I woke up laughing too. Gasping, sweating, free. The copper cuff still hugged my wrist. The toy sat innocent on the nightstand, just plastic again. I stared at it. It stared back. He gave it to me early on, said he found it online because I mentioned my father had ripped mine away when I was 4. It wasn't a gift. It was a trophy. A souvenir from a story he planned to rewrite. "Fuck you," I whispered. My own smile wide in the dark. I grabbed it by the tail and walked outside. The dumpster smelled like rotting roses and regret. I dangled the glowworm over the edge. "It's just a toy," I lied. "It's just a toy." Then I dropped it. The clack of plastic against pizza boxes should have been the end, but it wasn't. I jumped in after it. The filth baptized me, coffee grounds in my lashes, rotting lettuce in my bra, something sticky coating my arms like old guilt. I found it, and I smashed it. Once, twice, 3 times against the metal wall, until its light died, until it stopped looking like love. I climbed out, dragging it with me. I just could not get rid of it. Not a trophy, not a curse, just something I survived. Inside, I didn't wash right away. I sat at my bench, filthy, feral, clear. The copper called to me. It's truth. The rose quartz idea came at 4:44 a.m. It had been waiting. I picked the roughest cut I had, not the smooth, polished ones, not the glittering, faceted kind Ashley liked, just the raw silver. Rough edges, no apologies. I carved it into a crescent, hung it from copper wire that still smelled like my sweat. The moon isn't always visible, but it's always whole. I slipped it around my neck and whispered to myself, I am not what they couldn't love. I am not their reflection anymore. I almost stopped there, but the guilt wasn't mine to keep. So I pulled out the sketchbook. I started it before I ever met Ashley. There, on the 3rd page, was the drawing, the rose quartz pendant, the exact shape, the caption in pencil, for the woman who forgets how to love herself, so I can remind her. I'd given that pendant to Amir on his birthday, told him to slip it into Ashley's hair. He never told her about me, but gave her my gift. But when Lynn slid it into her locks later, Ashley beamed at her reflection and said, I feel loved. She wore it like a crown. Amir sent me the picture. I thought she knew about me then. Apparently not. She never knew whose hands carved it, whose love predated the lies. I gave her the chance to love herself. She called it hell. I told the girls about the dream, dropped it in the group chat like it was just another meme. Y'all, the damn glowworm came alive, bit Amir, set Ashley's scalp on fire, and told me you're welcome. I think I need Big Mama or a nap. Candy was the first to reply. Girl, what in the LSD hallucination without the LSD? Vaughn sent 3 crying emojis and said, that's not funny, but I'm laughing. You good? Megan? Bitch, I told you copper is a conductor. It picked up on your rage. She wasn't wrong. So when I said I needed a break from all of it, from myself, they said say less. Megan gassed the van. Candy cleared her schedule. I booked for the Aerial 6 class. The instructor was running some kind of chakra balancing special that made it free for first-timers. It felt cosmic, or maybe just timely. Either way, I took it as a sign Big Mama's kind. We spilled in, 8 deep, immediately drowning the zen in black girl chaos. I don't got upper body strength, Candy lied, stressing like Simone Biles. I barely got lower body strength, Vaughn whispered back. I don't even believe in gravity, Megan announced. Let's manifest levitation. The silks hung like jungle vines. The instructor greeted us with a serenity that felt illegal before noon. Connect with your breath, she urged. Mine's sponsored by Mango Backwoods. Candy coughed. The studio smelled like eucalyptus and sweat. We laughed too loud. We moved too slow. Took too many selfies. No one cared. When it was my turn to climb, I hesitated. The silk felt like a metaphor, slippery, necessary, suspended between surrender and strength. I didn't make it far. I slid halfway up and got stuck with one leg wrapped, the other dangling like a stray in motion. But for once I laughed. Really laughed. No edge, no mask. Vaughn helped me down with quiet encouragement and a towel. Candy spun upside down and shouted, I'm a sexy rotisserie chicken. Megan twerked mid-hole and got kicked out of formation for improper hip movement. Shar and Dami took turns capturing it all on video, giggling behind the camera like little thieves stealing joy. It was beautiful chaos. I was sore and covered in chalk. I was full. Afterward, we hit a Korean hot pot place Megan swore was life-changing. The waitress asked if we wanted menus, and Candy said, no pork, no cow, everything else, run it. We cooked, we slurped, we spilled drinks and secrets, but no one mentioned relationships. We talked about stretch marks and side hustles, about postpartum sex and baby daddy group chats. Shar told a story about her neighbor's dog stealing wigs off clotheslines. Vaughn shared a recipe for a vegan lasagna that made Candy squint suspiciously. We gossiped, snorted, argued about astrology and complimented each other's skin like we were building altars. It felt like breathing. On the ride back, the sun spilled coral and wine across the sky. The van was quieter, not tense, just content, worn in like a favorite hoodie. Ari Lennox poured over the speakers, soft and syrupy. Pressure? I'm not the girl I was or used to be. I looked around. My circle, my sisters. Some I've known since Destiny's Child wore matching denim. Others I found when I thought I lost myself for good. I didn't plan to speak, but it slipped out soft like a breath. I loved them. both of them. And I thought that meant I had to stay. Nobody rushed to fix it. They let the air hold the weight for a moment. Then Megan, blunt tucked in her fingers, finally said, "We've all loved a monster or two. That don't mean you gotta invite them back into your bed just because they said sorry." Vine added, quiet but steady, "Or into your heart just because they cry pretty." Candy snapped her fingers and whispered, "I say." We got home late. My body ached in ways that just weren't physical. But my soul, it felt new. Or maybe just remembered. I hung my aerial wristband from a copper hook by my bed. I didn't cry, didn't spiral, didn't text anyone. I slept. Not because the storm had passed, but because I finally stepped out of it. The rattling started at 12:42 p.m., punctuated by wind that just didn't knock. It clawed. The chimes outside screamed like warning bells, their usual melody warped into something frantic and metallic. The storm had been circling all week, rattling trees, flickering lights, tossing porch chairs like dominoes. But it wasn't until my apartment surrendered that I felt it break me. No AC, no lights, no food that wouldn't rot, just thick, wet darkness and humidity that made the walls sweat. I toughed it out the first night, wrapped in a weighted blanket that had gone cold, listening to the electricity wheeze its last breath through every socket. The silence buzzed with ghosts. For one pathetic moment, I cuddled with my Chucky-shaped pillow. Its plastic grin had felt safer than this quiet. By morning, I was convincing myself that Tootsie Pops and Sprite could carry me another day. But Amir disagreed. He showed up on my porch, shirt damp with rain, eyes storm dark and unreadable. "You're coming to the house," he said, not a request, a command. I opened my mouth to lie, to say I was fine, but his jaw was already tight. That look, the one that always curled my spine even when I hated myself for bending. I loved him in a way that still made obedience feel like devotion. So I grabbed my bag. Ashley didn't speak when I walked in. She didn't have to. Her silence was a live wire. She set her glass of ice down too hard. No words, no smile, not even a fake one. Just turned and walked away like I was a roach in her kitchen. I knew what it meant. She didn't like that he came for me. The bedroom smelled like lavender, but the sheets were starch stiff and the pillow fluffed like punishment. That night, everyone slept with their backs toward me. I was an intruder, an interruption. Amir left at dawn, pressed a kiss to our foreheads like some king heading off to war, murmured, "Be good," like it was a joke. And when his car disappeared down the street, the house shifted. Ashley moved to the couch, sat there scrolling for hours like I didn't exist. I tried to bridge the silence, gently tucked her fingers into my hair while sitting on the floor beside her somewhere between apology and offering. She let her nails rest there, limp, uninterested, like wet spaghetti noodles. She clearly didn't want to touch me. I got up and asked, "Where are the cleaning supplies?" "I clean up," she said, rising like lightning. "I'm not lazy." "I didn't say you were," I replied gently. "I just wanted to help." I found her in the kitchen, furiously scrubbing a counter that already gleamed. "Tea?" I offered, still reaching for any way to care. "No," she snapped. "You can make the bed." So I did, with care, with intention, with love, the kind she never seemed to notice. The wind still howled through windows. My apartment was still powerless. On day 2. I'm getting food. I said, want anything? She didn't even look up. I went anyway. Stopped by the small Korean market. On a whim, I grabbed a bouquet, something pink, something soft. I told myself she didn't mean it, that maybe kindness would remind her how to be human. When I got back, takeout containers were already on the table. Her car had moved to a different spot. She'd eaten from the restaurant next to the one I went to. She didn't wait. I stood there with flowers in my hand like a goddamn idiot. I walked them back to my car, let them sit in the passenger seat, undeserved. I searched the whole house calling her name, nothing. Then I saw the light in her tacky ass car, rhinestones blinking like a warning. She was inside, calm, eating fries like this wasn't war. I yanked open the door. You make me want to give up on you. She smiled, slow, like she won. That's when I knew this was a game to her, one she intended to win. I was never a partner. I was a threat to her crown, to her illusion of being chosen. I didn't want her place. I wanted peace. But I was reaching for love. She was keeping score. My heart broke in real time. Quiet. Final. I packed my things, left without a word, flowers and all. My lights were back on when I got home. So was the water. The fridge hummed like an apology. I dropped my bags, stripped to my skin, and climbed into bed. That night, Amir came over. We lay back to back, not touching. His body heat used to be comfort. Now I felt like fire. I couldn't get too close to it without blistering. You've been different tonight, he said into the dark. So had he. But neither of us said it. We let it rot between us like everything else. The next morning, I dumped the trash on their porch. His hoodies, her jewelry, the lightsaber dildo, all of it. I drove to the lake. The water was still, unbothered. I screamed until my voice broke apart. Why wasn't I enough? The wind didn't answer. It just carried my pain across the water like smoke. The smell hit first. That thick fish stink that curled at the back of my throat and stayed there like a bad memory. I liked it. Kept the crowds away. The sushi place always looked like it was one violation away from being shut down. But something about the dim lighting, the greasy menus, the laminated specials no one ordered, felt honest. There was no pretending here. No performance. I ordered chicken wings. Not sushi. Never sushi. I sat near the back next to the dusty aquarium with the one-eyed koi fish that floated sideways. My phone buzzed. I ain't check it. I stared at the soy sauce packet, running my thumb over the jagged edge. My stomach felt like it had been scooped out and filled with acid. The door creaked behind me. I didn't have to look. I knew the rhythm of his footsteps. I felt him. I grabbed the edge of the table so hard my fingers went numb. I counted my breath. 1, 2. Don't cry. 3. Don't flinch. 4. I hated how my body still responded to him. that my heart didn't have the decency to be done. It raced, but not out of love, but out of confusion, rage, fear, lust. The fucked up kind that comes from being pulled too close for too long and suddenly flung into absence. I left before he can get any closer. Outside, the air was wet with the kind of heat that sticks to your skin. The rain chain hanging from the corner of the building. A cheap decoration someone probably thought was zen, sang out sharp and haunting, like a warning. I turned the corner fast enough to feel like I could outrun it, but he was already there. Did you eat? Amir's voice was soft, calculated. He wore that damn cologne again. My mouth automatically started watering like some kind of feral dog. I stepped back, but the alley behind the sushi spot was narrow and boxed in. A dumpster to my left, a wall to my right. He moved in slow like he wasn't sure if I'd slap him. I might. You shouldn't be here, I said. My voice was hoarse. I hadn't spoken much in days. I just wanted to see you. You saw me. Now leave. He smiled like he still had power, like he thought he could still make me weak just by showing up. That used to work. That used to melt me into something soft. Not tonight. I hung your wind chimes back up. He said it like a threat, like a dare that I touched them again. That sentence sliced me. My wind chimes, the ones that used to make me feel safe. The fact that he touched them felt like a violation. A desecration, but I have given them back to him in that bag as well. You bought them. I snapped. I know. That's why I put them back up. My hands trembled from the overwhelming realization that he still believed he could shape the story. That returning a wind chime was an act of peace and not a taunt. You don't love me, I whispered. Amir tilted his head. You know that's not true. I never said I didn't. You never had to. I turned to walk away, and that's when he reached for me. Just a touch. Just a brush of his fingers on my arm. But my whole body flinched like I'd been hit. Shay, I missed you, he said, his voice cracking too perfectly. We had something. No, I snapped again. We had me. You had me. She had me. I had confusion. I had heartbreak. I had rejection. I had silence. His mouth open, closed. Nothing came out. We stood like that. The rain chain in the distance kept singing, mocking me. You know what hurts the most? I said. Not that you lied. Not that you used Ashley and me like props. What hurts is that I begged for honesty. I begged you to just be real with me, and you couldn't even give me that. The bare minimum. I put my standards on the floor, and you both refused to reach them. I was scared. Of what? Loving me? Losing her? Being happy? Fighting for the thing you said you wanted? Of being truly free. That did it. Rage flooded me. Because now he was saying all the right things with soft eyes, but it didn't matter. None of it meant a damn thing, because it wasn't truth. It was fear of losing access. Not me, access. I got in my car. I didn't cry until the engine turned over and that damn song came on. The one that used to play in the background when I cooked breakfast for him. I slammed the power button off, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The wind chimes were loud in my ear. They always would be. The bag was on my porch. The returned black trash bag sat crinkled, heavy, half split at the bottom. No note, no warning, just there, like it grew out of the damn wood overnight. I didn't touch it. Not at first. I just stood there, one hand on the doorframe, the other limp at my side, staring at it like it was a corpse someone had dared to leave on my doorstep. My body locked up. The same tension I've had since I was little when somebody knocked too hard on the door. That flinch lives in my bones now. I didn't need to open it to know what was inside. When I finally bent down and picked it up, the trash bag whined under the weight. Something clinked inside. Metal, maybe? The candle I left lit the night he said you could never go too far. I dragged it inside the dead weight, and left it slumped by the door. It leaned there like a reminder that I gave too much, that I loved like a dog with an open throat, always exposed, always wagging. Hours passed. I sat in silence, forehead against the window, watching the wind chimes sway in the breeze. He put them up so casually, like he was doing me a favor, like hanging them with some final act of kindness, not a confession, not a goodbye. My phone buzzed. Amir sent $80 for wind chimes. I laughed. This pitiful broken bark that barely left my mouth. He always priced my pain at a discount. I sent it back. Then came the text. If you want to get rid of your things, don't put them somewhere safe. Throw them away, burn them, but don't leave them at my place like I'm your safety net. And that was the last fucking straw. I opened the bag, and the glowworm sat on top. Its face, its little eyes, that painted grin angered me. Like even the toy knew how easy I was to leave. I held it to my chest and screamed. A sound so guttural, I didn't recognize it. Like my body was evicting my spirit. And the worst part, I still fucking loved him. Even after all this, after the bag, after the $80, after the text, after everything, I still wanted him to show up. To knock on the door to say, I'm sorry, you're worth trying for. But he didn't. He wouldn't. I stayed there until my stomach turned in on itself. Even then I didn't move. I let it ache, let it starve. Maybe that was what I needed, to be empty enough that he'd finally be gone. I don't remember the day the bag disappeared, only that it stopped staring at me. It had sat there for months, dead center of the living room. I didn't throw it out, didn't unpack it, didn't open it again after that first night. It just lived with me, daring me to assign meaning to what he returned like garbage, daring me to admit something sacred had been twisted shut in black plastic. Eventually, I started walking around it like it was a grave. Sometimes grief looks like brushing your teeth at 5 p.m. and still needing to lie down. Like forgetting laundry and letting it sour in the machine. Like watching dust gather on a takeout counter you swore you'd toss. I didn't crawl into bed. Didn't even look at it. The bed was too clean for this kind of grief. Too intentional. That mattress had seen versions of me that laugh. That shit didn't belong here. My hands curled inward like they were trying to protect something, but there was nothing left to guard. I didn't eat, didn't shower. I pissed with the door open, left the toilet unflushed, let the dishes wash, let my body rot. They didn't say you need to move. They said you can't rot here. Megan came first. She brought pineapple juice and paper towels. Didn't say a word, just wiped the stove clean. I broke down over a shadowed bottle of spicy pickled red onions. She nodded, because it made sense. Shar unplugged the router, said I didn't need to be tempted into stalking people who wouldn't care if I died. She brought a deck of Uno cards and sat in silence. Vaughn threatened to fight Amir. I told her it wasn't worth it, but I secretly hoped she would, just so I wouldn't have to hold all the rage myself. I grieved the sweatshirt, the glowworm. I grieved the damn dildo. Not because I wanted it, but because it reminded me how my body was shared like my heart, enjoyed and forgotten. I grieved time. I grieved the illusion that any of it could be rewound. And I grieved Ashley. Not the terrible version I met, the version I imagined, the softness that I thought I saw flicker beneath the performance. I think I really loved that girl. But she went to war with her reflection. And I refuse to swing weapons at people I want to love. It's a strange thing to accept someone who hurt you will never apologize. That they'll go on laughing, sleeping, living. He isn't grieving me. He never will. And now, that's okay. That truth broke me in a new place. But eventually, I stopped expecting anything with his name on it to feel like comfort. And that was the shift. Vaughn didn't ask questions. She just cleared the guest room, handed me a key, and closed the door like she was sealing it behind a spell. That kind of silence was the kindest thing anyone had given me in years. The first few days I didn't get out of bed, didn't brush my teeth, didn't check my phone. I ate when Vaughn slid food by the door and walked off before I could pretend I was fine. I barely spoke except to cry or to scream into pillows. I was grieving the illusion, the version of me that stayed hopefully way too long. The version of me that believed love could fix what was never whole to begin with. Then one morning I woke up by accident, my mouth dry, my eyes swollen, and something in my chest whispered, enough. I made the bed. I stood in front of the mirror and whispered, hello, beautiful. You are safe. You are seen. You are sacred. It felt stupid, then like a lifeline. That same morning, I taped 10 affirmations to the wall, right where my eyes would land every time I turned my head. I honor my ancestors by choosing ease. I survive emotional bullets. I owe the world nothing. What is mine will find me. I am allowed to take up space. I am worthy exactly as I am. I refuse to lie to myself. I only align with those who honor me. I am not too much. My worth is not tied to how others view me. I started a 20-day self-love journey. The internet calls it shadow work. I call it coming back from the dead. I journaled until the pages curled from my tears. I read. I prayed. I studied forgiveness like it was a lost language, not to let people off the hook, but to release them from dragging their dirt into my next chapter. I stopped eating trash, started drinking water like it held all the answers. Woke up at 5 a.m., did squats in silence. Thanked divinity for not letting my chest ache that morning. I started grounding barefoot in Vaughn's backyard. Dirt under my heels, sun on my shoulders. Earth was my therapist now. No bills, no judgment, just rhythm. I lit incense. I saged the doorway. I saved myself. And then I cut my locks. Right there in the mirror. Not to be pretty, to be free. The panic attacks didn't stop. Actually, they got sharper. They showed up while I was driving, while I was brushing my teeth, while I was folding my laundry like nothing was broken. They crept in like reminders. You don't have a safety net anymore. You're really doing this alone. But I didn't tell anyone. Not even Vaughn. I just learned to ride them like waves. My new routine became my backbone. Workout A, core and glutes. Workout B, full body, glutes and hamstrings. Workout C, 15-minute recovery walk or hip opening yoga. Not for aesthetics, for control, for presence. I washed my face with care, took time with my skin, looked myself in the eye again, and I swear for the first time in forever, I could hear myself. My heartbeat, my breath, the birds outside. Silence didn't scare me anymore. It held me. But not everyone liked the new me. Megan noticed. We'd been friends for 5 years. She wasn't just a friend, she was one of my constants. But now she was distant. Passive aggressive. Kept saying shit like, I guess you don't need us anymore. And, oh, someone's too healed to hang. She stopped journaling. Stopped reading the books we picked. Drank more, not a lot, but enough. Enough for me to see a pattern. Same pattern Amir had. I told the group chat I needed quiet, space. Most of them said okay. Megan didn't. She left the thread. No goodbye, no call, just gone. And it broke my heart because I wanted her to grow with me. I waited. I made room. But healing isn't a group project. And if I could walk away from the man I love because he wouldn't evolve, how could I coddle a friend doing the same thing? Love has limits, especially when it starts to rot. But I still believed, still wanted love, still craved connection that was soft and honest. I made a new checklist, not for what I wanted in someone else, but what I needed to be in order to attract alignment. Kindness, humor, vision, accountability, emotional fluency. Zero desire to be right, just to be real. I joined a Polyamory Facebook group. Not to date, just to watch, learn, heal. That's where I found them. A married couple, 10 years deep, with a kid, and a softness between them that felt like exhale. They weren't my people, but they reminded me my people exist. This life isn't a fantasy. It's not delusional. It's not something I made up to cope. It's real. It's out here. And I don't have to settle just because someone showed up with $80, flowers, and an apology. One night, scrolling half asleep, I found it. A tiny plot of land, out of the city, rich soil, wildflowers, a tree that looked like it whispered spells. It was cheap, Insanely so, but I didn't care. I bought it. On a fucking whim. I could already see it. A Matilda-style cottage. Vines on the windows. Wind chimes. Jewelry drying in the sun. Maybe chickens. Definitely peace. A place where I didn't need to heal anymore. Just live. I packed what mattered, stored what didn't. I worked hard for this version of myself. And even harder for the silence that no longer screamed. I don't know where the story goes next, but I know who's writing it now. And this chapter, this one's mine. The sky cracked open and I laughed. Pure, deep, unfiltered joy. Thunder shook the trees, but I didn't run for cover. I lifted my hands to the sky and let the rain soak me, cleanse me of any negativity I had accumulated unknowingly. Peace. Life was quiet now, not empty, calm. I looked around admiring my surroundings. My garden was full. Tomatoes hung heavy, okra stretching tall, and the wild borage curled purple at the edge. Bees buzzed lazy around the marigolds. I was barefoot, dancing. No music played. Off key, I said, "Who can I love when they tell me I can't love myself? How in the hell could I possibly love someone else?" Brent. Always Brent. His voice smooth like glass. I had the kind of glow no cream could create. The kind that comes from surviving, from eating whole foods, sleeping deep, laughing daily, from not asking for permission to be. I smiled to no one, for no reason, just because. I was the difference now. Nothing to prove, no audience, just me. I made jewelry while the sun poured through my studio window. Real pieces, stones molded into metal. I told truth with my hands and people listened, bought them, wore them. My pop-up sold out. My online shop buzzed. I recorded short videos in the garden, telling stories behind each piece. I didn't overshare. I didn't perform. I just told the truth. That was more than enough. The shed to home conversion was coming along. I painted the inside lavender and clay, added sheer curtains that fluttered even when the wind was still. My bed faced east. Every morning I watched the sun rise like it was a promise. I drank spring water from God's acre like it held prophecy. Maybe it did. I filled jugs and lined them along the wall. That water tasted like blessing, like clarity. And yes, there was someone new. But this time it wasn't about being chosen. This time I chose. There was no rush, no proving, no explaining. We were both whole, both honest, both building. She allowed me to feel happiness without feeling like I had to earn my place next to her. There was no unspoken insecurities. She held space instead of attempting to hold power. We made dinner together, danced in the kitchen, kissed with our eyes open. I was free to be myself with her. That's what made everything real. I wrote the letter in ink, folded with care. Kissed it once, then lit it a flame. It curled in on itself. I buried the ashes beneath the tree I planted my first week here. Above wind chimes danced too. The same ones my soon-to-be-forgotten ex bought. Here they were singing a different song. I unhooked the cold steel anklet from my right foot, wrapped it with an old key and buried them together. No spectacle, just sovereignty. I wrote the letter for closure. I never planned to send it, so I burned it. I wanted freedom. The letter never sent. Positive vibes to you and yours. I forgive you. I thank you. I saw you. I hope you're happy. I really do. Everyone deserves a clear reflection. Everyone deserves love and peace. Everyone deserves a mirror. I'm not angry. I'm not hurting. I'm not bitter or broken. I am whole. I stayed in the garden until the clouds thinned and the sky turned gold. Tomorrow I sell at a festival. Next week I'd host a pop-up. I was living my dream. The land, mine. My joy, mine. I danced more, moving my hips, just enjoying the feel of being a woman, being soft without begging people to hold themselves accountable or to be authentic. It was like breathing, easy. Let Me Know still played in my head, loud, unapologetic. I felt finally released.
You have been listening to Twisted Reflections, written by Shay and narrated by Dynae, edited by Takeyla Chiles. This is a Turdy production. Until next reflection, remember, you are safe, seen, and sacred. Thank you for listening.